The Capital Confidential podcast is brought to you by the Times-Union, the leading newspaper in New York's capital region. Subscribe today or visit online at timesunion.com.
You want to deport an undocumented person? Start with me, because I'm an undocumented person.
How do we beat him in an election?
We will. I'm going to run against him.
I wish you would. I wish you would, Dad. I would.
There are things in here that are unobjectionable because they're not that effective. So yeah, sure, I'll vote for a distinctive license plate. Sure, why not?
Jim, you had your press conference at 4 o'clock.
You're having a press conference now?
That's
You're
right.
talking?
I'm having a press conference.
Well,
now.
is this your space here or is it public?
No, it's my space.
Oh, this is your
Don't
space.
interrupt.
Okay.
I'm David Lombardo, and you're listening to the Capital Confidential podcast. This episode explores the showdown at the PSC, New York's regulator of public utilities, which brought the hammer down on your cable company last week, assuming you haven't cut the cord and live in upstate New York. The controversy has been brewing for years, and it came to a head last week with a special meeting of the PSC, which gave Charter Communications 60 days to give up its internet, cable, and phone business in New York. Here to explain it all is Times-Union business reporter Larry Rulison, who has been covering this issue since Charter acquired Time Warner Cable 2 years ago. One heads up, we talked about Charter gaslighting its customers with controversial ads. That's the PSC's words, not ours. And a few hours after Larry and I spoke, the company agreed to stop these ads. Enjoy the show. At a very basic level, what is the Public Service Commission and what's its job in New York?
Yeah, the PSC regulates our utilities, everything from phone service to water to our electricity service, and they have a staff. I can't remember; it's several hundred people.
And that's the Department of Public Service,
right?
Which
Yeah,
is like it's a weird. I always
it's always
get the
very
two
confusing. Yeah.
It's the same thing but different because the PSC is the commissioners. And
Right. They generally. I sort of, to help the reader, I always call it the Public Service Commission, but they're just the board of 4 or 5 members.
Yeah.
And then they have this huge staff of hundreds of people that basically help them come to their decisions
and enforce them.
And enforce the decisions they make.
And so it's a 5-person board, but we're currently dealing with 4 people on the board, right?
Correct.
And they're all Cuomo appointees.
Correct.
Who are confirmed by the Senate.
Yep.
And is the board typically is it seen as another arm of the Cuomo administration? Is it an independent body? How is it viewed?
I've been covering them for 13 years now, and generally speaking, they always, in the past at least, have tried to have both Republicans and Democrats on there, even though a Republican or a Democrat might be the governor at the time. And they're generally industry experts and not very partisan or political. Some have been former assembly members in the past. Generally speaking, I think they're pretty consumer-oriented and not political, but there's always the, talk or people always saying, they're too political.
Well,
but
it's interesting, you mentioned the body makeup, and would it be fair to say that Diane Berman, who I think worked for the Senate Republicans at one point, is definitely one of the louder, more critical voices of things the PSC is doing? Is she one of the people who speaks out against things?
Yeah, when she came in, I think she immediately voted against some stuff where it's normally rubber stamped across the board. So I always thought, I was always like, wow, she's actually going against the grain.
So the PSC made headlines last week for actions it took against Charter Communications. Can you begin by explaining where the power comes from for the PSC to regulate Charter?
When Governor Cuomo several years ago said he was going to carefully look at that Charter Time Warner acquisition,
right,
I was actually surprised because generally in the past they hadn't really got involved. They very lightly regulate internet and cable TV because that's mostly the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. They're able to get in. They're able to get into the case because of the telephone service,
which they provide as well.
Right, over the broadband. So, I mean, I can understand why people want them to regulate cable TV and internet But generally speaking, in the past, the PSC sort of very lightly treaded there. They wouldn't have gotten so involved in the past, but Cuomo's been so intent on getting 100% broadband across the state. I think he saw this as an opportunity.
So those aren't the same sort of utility. They're not the cable and internet aren't regulated the same way as you're saying, like energy and other utilities are.
Right. The PSC does have oversight to a degree for like approving franchises that towns have approved.
Gotcha. Yep.
But it's basically been home rule in the past. I mean, they do have a legal right. The PSC does have a legal right to intercede in these mergers. Just in the past, they never had such a big interest in it. I think, though, lately, though, with net neutrality and the broadband internet becoming so important to people's lives, I think there's a shift here where they view it as their duty. And, this type of merger where they're basically taking over huge parts of upstate, I didn't see it as a problem, but it was a change. But I think we're changing the way we live, and internet's so important. It's just as important as electricity these days.
And so what is Charter? I mean, I was a Time Warner cable subscriber. I was getting my TV, my internet through them. And then one day I was told, I think Spectrum was there and then Charter on top of that. So what is Charter?
Sure, good question. Yeah. So Charter is this holding company, basically.
Okay.
And it's run by Tom Rutledge, who is a pioneer in cable TV, like figured out how to, the best way to sell cable TV, and has been doing it for years and years and years. The cable TV guy across the country, and he's sort of gone up and down, and lately he had this new plan where he's just going to buy up as many companies as he can and merge them together, and this Time Warner deal was his latest. Spectrum is the brand of their service. I think they used to maybe call it Charter, but then a lot of companies you see, Verizon, Fios is there, and then Comcast has a different name. I think there's a bad there's bad name on the cable TV companies, so they've been rebranding their services like a new name.
Gotcha.
To kind of get a new fresh brand. And so Spectrum is the name of your TV service, cable TV service through Charter, your internet service through Charter. It's just the branding of the actual product that they sell.
Gotcha. In the last couple of years, Charter makes a move to acquire Time Warner Cable, right? And what were some of the strings that the PSC put on that merger? What did they say, in order for us to approve that, what do you have to do to make that work?
Sure. Anytime the PSC approves a merger, they can't do it under state law without finding a public benefit.
Okay.
And usually the public benefit is some multiple of the size of the merger. And in this case,
we're going to lower costs, it's going to be better products,
exactly.
Whatever.
Yep. Well, lower your rates. That's usually what they do in the electricity cases. They make the companies drastically lower their rates if they want to buy another company.
Gotcha.
Make them keep workers. They don't want them laying people off. They want benefits. In this case, it was a little different because the PSC doesn't normally regulate the cable TV companies.
Right, if you're saying.
It wasn't like they're going to come in and say, you got to lower your rates. What they did was Governor Cuomo had this goal of 100% high-speed internet service in New York State, which the real challenge is in the places like the Adirondacks, the North Country, rural areas where it costs like $5,000 a mile for these companies to build a line to your
no
house.
Incentive to do it.
Right.
To get that one customer.
They'll never recoup that money in like 5 years or more. So we're not going to build our line to you and make you a customer. So,
and just to interrupt you for a second, that kind of sounds like, it's a little slightly before my time, but the challenge with rolling out phone lines initially, like that there were all these, rural areas that didn't get phone lines, but they were treated as utilities, and they said, you got to come out and bring it everywhere. But so far, internet service not treated that way.
Right.
Okay, so
exactly.
Go back though. So the governor's got this goal, trying to expand broadband, and he sees this as an opportunity to put in some caveats on the deal?
Yeah, he's like, listen, I can really help with this goal if I get Charter to help me out here.
Right.
And so the PSC and Charter agreed, okay, we'll add 145,000 new access points in unserved or underserved areas of the state.
Right.
And I think the total benefit to the state would be $50 million was the number. I bet it was actually going to be more costly than that.
Right.
That was what they put in there. And then there was some other little things about jobs and customer service.
It's going to be great.
Yeah, and higher speeds. It was going to be great.
Make New York great again.
Exactly. Yeah, make it great. And right from the beginning, there was problems between Charter and the PSC on this 145,000 lines commitment.
And what do you mean say problems? Were they just not rolling it out in time? Were they not doing it, period? Were they something else?
There was milestones they had to hit. They had to hit like X number of new lines by X number of months or 1 year. Maybe I can't remember the exact details. But right from the beginning, it was going very slow.
And what year are we talking? 2015, 2016?
So the PSC approved the merger in 2016,
okay.
And I think the first deadline was in 2017, where they had to come up with.
Gotcha.
They had to show proof that they'd been making progress on this goal, which had to be met by 2020. I mean, they had 4 years.
So yeah, because theoretically they still have time.
Yeah,
but
what happened was after this initial problem, the two sides said, well, let's come up with a settlement here because we don't want to go to court. And they came up with this new agreement where they came up with much more specific deadlines. And then Charter put up $12 million line of credit that the PSC was allowed to draw down on if the goals weren't met.
Gotcha.
When that came out in 2017, $12 million fines, potentially. You know, it was seen as like very, hard line by the PSC, and at the time it was like great.
Nothing yet.
Yeah, right. And then, literally right on the next deadline, there was the PSC started complaining about the way Charter was implementing that settlement.
And what has Charter said along the way? Have they said, we are meeting these goals, we aren't meeting them because of X, PSC is being unfair? What have they been saying while PSC has been beating the drum on this?
The initial complaints by Charter were that they couldn't get on the poles that they needed to, the utility poles. Mm-hmm. Charter will run their internet lines on poles or underground.
Okay.
A lot of them are on poles in rural areas and in urban areas. It just depends, but they initially said, you know what, Verizon's just not letting us on the poles.
Verizon.
Right. And they're not letting us on the poles. They're charging us too much. I mean, this process is going way too slow. And they're a competitor, and that's why they're doing it. Verizon doesn't want us to extend our thing, so it's slowing us down. So that sort of led to this settlement, this $12 million settlement. They figured a way around the Verizon issues, and Verizon said, okay, well, they all came to agreement. But then the next complaint Charter had was Charter said, look, we built out these lines. And so the PSC, which has a lot, the one thing they're really good at, they'll just send these, they're called auditors, but they're basically inspectors to go out and check some of these lines. That they get a list of the lines that Charter says it extended. And when I say extend a line, let's say you own a house and in your backyard there's like a utility pole. If Charter just needs to bring it to the pole in the backyard, and then that's your access point. You're not a customer yet, but when you want to become a customer,
you can.
They just put that line into your house.
Right.
So PSC goes out, does an audit, and it's like a lot of these lines are just replicates of previous lines that have been put out.
What does that mean?
So Charter had already had a line to that house.
Oh.
And so the PSC was saying you're double counting a line. You just all you did was replace the previous line, and you're counting it as a new one to a new customer.
Oh boy!
And then there was 20,000 addresses in New York City, where Charter's like, yep, we just strung up 12,000 new addresses in New York City, and the PSC said, listen, I mean, everyone in New York City has high-speed internet and several vendors selling to them. There's no reason you should be adding any.
It's not underserved.
Yeah, it's not underserved, and it's required under your franchise with the city of New York. So why are you even building in New York? Go out to Yates County.
Yikes.
Go to the Adirondacks. Go somewhere where it's actually cost.
Lake Flower.
Yeah, Lake Flower. They need it.
Yeah.
Exactly. I did not have high-speed internet, or I don't even think I had internet when I lived there. But and they said that Charter was harming the citizens of New York by installing less expensive lines to people that didn't need it at the expense of people in rural areas that really needed it and that where it actually cost money.
And is this at the same time when Charter/Spectrum/Time Warner Cable begins rolling out its television ads that are saying,
Right.
hey, we're bringing the internet to everybody. We're
Yeah.
great. We're a great company. Happy to be here. Happy to be this big PR blitz. It's going on at the same time.
Exactly.
And I mean, I remember, I think, a press release from PSC Chairman John Rhodes accusing them of gaslighting.
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen that allegation thrown out in a press release recently?
Yes. Like a week before the PSC decided to revoke Charter's license in New York, PSC Chairman John Rhodes, former appointee, and he's actually a very good guy, very consumer friendly, very knows his stuff. He accused Charter of gaslighting its customers by sending out these ads on social media, these videos they made claiming they'd done all these, they're way ahead of schedule, 81,000 installs, we're meeting all our goals at the same time that they're in this huge fight with the PSC, where the PSC is like, you haven't met your goals, you're way behind schedule. And the PSC actually made Charter give them a list of all these ads that they had put up in social media posts, and I was like, it was incredible how much they really hammered this point home, and that's what John Rhodes is really upset about. And I've never heard, I mean, using the term gaslighting in a utility proceeding, unprecedented.
Well, it all comes to a head last week, essentially, and what happened at the special meeting of the PSC last Friday.
Yeah, so that was amazing. You had John Rhodes, the chairman, was there in person, but then Greg Sayre and Alisi were actually there by video conference, which was, I'm not going to say strange, but since it was a hastily arranged...
Yeah, it was thrown together the day before based on the agenda.
Right.
Yeah, get a notice Thursday afternoon that, hey, something's up with the charter.
Yeah. It's very unusual for them to vote by video conference. Totally legal. It's under state law and precedent. It's totally fine, and they had a closed TV feed of the two gentlemen. The fourth commissioner wasn't able to make the
vacation. Previously scheduled vacation.
Yeah, so so that in itself was, so John's up there by himself basically, and then the PSC lawyer, and they start talking about what they're going to do, and they hadn't really said in the agenda exactly what was going to happen.
It basically says we're going to talk about charter.
Yeah. So I didn't know what to expect. It was not a lot of people there, so it was kind of unexpected circumstances in a way, and last minute. So John Rhodes and then Sayre and Alisi, all of them said, "I'm sorry, this has to come to this, but this has to happen. We're going to revoke the charter." And I mean, they were
revoke the charter.
Yeah, exactly.
And what does that mean?
Well, basically, they said, technically, they said, we're going back. We're going to undo our vote from 2016, agreeing to
let charter take over
Time Warner Cable. Now, the boats or the cows are already out of the barn. They can't undo the merger, right?
Okay.
But they said, you have 60 days. You, Charter, John Rhodes said, Charter's got 60 days to come back to us with a plan to sell Spectrum's New York operations, basically. And it can be one buyer, two buyers, or some other plan. And that's where, that's basically what the order said. So Charter is going to have to, I mean, unless they fight it in court or something, they're supposed to come up with a plan to tell the PSC how they plan to unload, the spectrum to another company.
And take me to that meeting. Is it just another meeting in the sense that it's just gavel in, gavel out, everybody's there having a great time, or is it tense? Is it relaxed?
It was very silent, very tense, very somber, and you could hear a pin drop. And Charter's lawyer, who is a former PSC chairwoman, was there, and she was sort of rocking in her seat. There was a lot of tension. I just could tell. And then hearing each commissioner speak and the lawyer for the PSC speak, they were very serious, but they were very upset. Charter, it's not like Charter had an opportunity.
They don't get to speak, right? It seems strange, but
this wasn't a public hearing. It was it was a vote, and it was at 12:30 on a Friday, which is very strange. It was high noon.
Well, noon and a half.
Yeah, noon and a half.
So then you talk to Charter afterwards.
Yeah.
What does Charter have to say about the decision?
They're totally sticking by their previous positions that they've done the build out.
Mm-hmm.
And
if you see our ads, we've done it already.
Come on. And their thing is, why should we discriminate between one customer here in New York City who wants service and another customer here in Gates County who wants service? Everyone should be treated equally. I don't know how that if that is what was intended, but that's their opinion, and they're sticking with it. That they've done these build outs. They've actually built these lines to customers, and they're way ahead of schedule, and they're not backing down. And they yesterday, so Tuesday,
this week, yep,
the CEO of Charter, during a conference call with shareholders and analysts, stock analysts, said, "We'll pursue legal avenues if we have to, but we're not backing down."
And legal avenue means what? Going to the federal courts, state courts? What could it potentially mean?
It would be typically in PSC proceedings, the company Charter will go to state Supreme Court in Albany, typically where the venue would be, and they would seek an injunction probably against the PSC and John Rhodes to stop this 60-day period probably and probably reverse their decision.
And what grounds would they have to reverse the decision? Why can a court come in and say the vote this body took has problems with it?
That's a good question. I don't know the exact.
Wait and see what their lawyers have to say.
Yeah, I have a feeling there's probably a lot of avenues, probably because, like we said before, they never really regulated
it's a good point.
Broadband and
So
cable
it's
TV.
beyond their jurisdiction.
I think that's going to be their argument, or that the PSC totally misunderstood the settlement agreement.
Okay.
And the merger agreement, and the merger agreement was flawed.
Gotcha.
And that that this never should have gotten to this point, and that they've upheld the bargain.
And then Charter also accused the PSC of being sort of driven by politics, right? Can you talk about what their accusations were essentially? Broadly, was it just that this is Cuomo trying to score political points?
Yeah. And so there's two things going on. You have Cuomo, who's facing the primary, right?
Yep.
And then after that,
a general election component as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then charter workers in New York City have been striking for more than a year.
Ah, yes.
And the labor unions obviously are involved, and
they're very supportive of the governor, and he's very supportive of them.
Yeah, and I think though he's had to prove it to this particular union, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers.
Right.
There's been some tension there, and so he's trying to prove his bona fides, I think.
That's what Charter would say, at least. Yeah.
Charter say right, and that this is all, but it's in the end it's about the election, right?
I mean, the Charter seems like an easy target because nobody ever says, "Boy, I love my cable company. Boy, my internet service." I mean, if it's as long as it's meeting its goals, then you're like, okay, I don't hate them too much. Then you just don't like the bill you get.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's an easy opponent if it is the case that the governor's trying to score political points.
Yeah, I mean, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. I mean, you literally are going to get no one disagreeing with you when you criticize the cable company.
Yeah.
So
I guess there is that, and it's funny that you mention the issues that have been going on all over with Charter, because the governor has actually now made the Charter suit a recurring theme when he's asked questions. So I know this week he's been probed on some of the reporting that our own Chris Bragg has done about Crystal Run and the donations they've made. And one of the reporters who brings this up constantly is Zach Fink, who works for NY1, which is work your way up the ladder to Charter television station, and the governor will start to answer and then be like, well, I got a lawsuit against you, and it's just a crazy pivot. So it's really infected everything in New York State. But we have a lawsuit potentially, potential legal challenge. Let's say the PSC, their decision's upheld, and they have to sell everything off. What if nobody wants to buy this? Or is it the case where someone's going to be able to make a great deal? They're going to come in and buy this for pennies on the dollars. Is New York going to end up running a cable station? What are the possible outcomes?
if they do end up going forward, I think this is going to be tied up in the courts. For
Verizon
years,
files
or
customer,
at least
Larry
18
Rulison.
Yeah, right. There'll be some
They're gonna
news
come after me.
So I don't need to worry about my cable plan changing in the next 6 months.
A judge will always side with the PSC that Charter cannot discontinue operations at any point in this process. Like, that'll be the number one goal here. And the part of the PSC decision, the vote, was that Charter has to do this, but under no circumstances can they stop service at any point or going straight to a judge.
Mm-hmm.
So don't worry if you're a customer that you're going to lose service. They're going to end up having to sell a fire sale here, right, if they did.
Right.
Which would, pennies on the dollar. Comcast is a likely suitor. I mean, they were previously thought to be the suitor for Time Warner Cable before Charter was like almost a last-minute ad in the bidding process. So I would assume Comcast would come in, and there's a company called Altice down in New York City. And the other ideas that have been talked about is a municipal-owned system, because think about it, you don't really need the cable TV operator anymore to get TV programming. So really the valuable thing here is the network and the internet network.
Could a municipal run system potentially be cheaper?
It would be cheaper. Charter makes a killing on selling you broadband at very high prices and the modems. It's their most profitable thing, and everyone needs it. So they make huge margins on it.
So why shouldn't we root for New York to get in the business of providing our internet?
I mean, personally, I think the internet should be like the highway system, open access to everyone, and overseen, highly, highly regulated, because just everyone needs it. I don't see why companies should be making a profit off of the highway system,
right,
or the internet system, just because how important it's become. Or at least if you make a profit, it should be highly, highly regulated at a certain rate of return, like the utilities. I mean, they're allowed to make 9.7% return on investment.
Gotcha.
I think that it would be hard for the state to do something like that, but if you look at other cities, can do municipal internet pretty easily. Not in the U.S. so much. I mean, Tennessee, Chattanooga, Tennessee, I think, and other places have done it. In Europe, it's very common.
Well, Larry, anything else I should have asked you about this? I mean, I think we covered everything, right?
No, I've had a lot of fun. This is a great discussion. It's a great story. It's very important to consumers and public policy. We're going to be talking about this for years.
And that's our show. My thanks to Larry Rulison for sharing his time and expertise. Don't forget to subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. And if you're listening from an Apple device, please leave us a review in iTunes. Your positive review can help someone like me. Until next time, podcast adjourned.
Just heard I tried to get you.
This day sucks.